I wanted to ask that, as well as attempting to build new spaces, new community spaces and so on, and common purpose, which I absolutely agree with. What are we doing to defend those community spaces that already exist? And what are we doing to defend the livelihoods that already exist? And what are we doing to work with the movements for change that are emerging both in this country and around the world? And I think that's a really crucial question for development educators at the moment.
And there are people, and I think Clíona put her finger to it, is who make actually a lot of profit out of what is happening at the moment. And the question is, do we have a response to that as well? I think we have a response to raise awareness and to get people active and all that. That's in the making. But do we have a response on the political scene to actually face, and I'll call it what it is, our enemies at the moment?
I think human rights is a key tool in this quest, if you like. It's an anchor, it's a compass in terms of where we need to go. They're not aspirational notions, these are legal rights and they're inherent rights. And I think that we as a constituency should use that as much as we can to emphasise the basis on which we need to act.
One of the things that I think is worth mentioning is the issue of the role of the private sector in how we're addressing this, and I haven't heard much reference to that. And it relates a little bit to Matthias's question about, how we are engaging with the blockers or the enemy, as Matthias put it. But they have the critical role, perhaps, in providing the lead and providing the technology, providing all kinds of resources and things that development organisations and politicians and governments don't have. And I think it's time that we're more mature and more developed and more sophisticated in our engagement with the private sector, and to encourage those private sector bodies who are already taking brave steps and brave initiatives in tackling or addressing climate justice, and encourage them and finding a way to engage them.
I think we need to talk about the role of the multinational corporations. I mean, climate change, the devastation of the planet, the impoverishment of people is not an individual problem, right? I mean, what you have in our system is this massive pursuit of profit by a tiny, tiny percentage of the world's population. And that's a key problem that needs to be addressed. And I think when we talk about the private sector, I mean, maybe there are people in the private sector who can cooperate, who do want to be involved in change, but as an economic system, the multinationals, the big corporations, there's a small number of them that control the world, that are causing people to die, that are causing climate change, that are causing all the problems of the world. We can't treat them as a friendly teddy bear that will work with us. They're not that. They are, as Matthias said, the enemy. And I mean, I think, people talk about how do we get from here to where we want to go. We need to be careful that we properly, estimate where we're at. And the reality is that we live under a capitalist system that is part of the problem, at least.
I think we have to be better also at celebrating our achievements and our opportunities, because I actually believe that we have been saying this for many years, many decades, I would say. But at the moment we have, for the first time, an opportunity to actually say, look, we know that there is a problem with capitalism and everybody knows it. And now what is the opportunity now? The opportunity is regulation. I think we can very easily now make the case that I'd be frank, most politicians will not want to say, oh yeah, let's get rid of the current global capitalist system. So a more achievable goal is to say, okay, we need greater regulation at a global and at a national level. And I don't think there are many people now that would say, well, look, it was actually the lack of regulation that was a success story. I think most politicians will acknowledge that, yes, we have gone too far in deregulation. So this is the opportunity that we have. And there's, I suppose, in reaction to Suming's comment about global goods, I think we have achieved some really amazing stuff. Do you remember the CFCs? Whatever, I forget what the chloro, fluor, something. It was all over the place, and it took between the awareness that there was a problem with these things and that they were depleting the ozone layer, and us coming to a global ban on the use of CFCs. That was about 7 years. There's a really good opportunity and a good example of how when we do mobilise around the concrete issues at a global level, we can make phenomenal changes.
We have to understand the system. We have to understand our place in the system. And I think we do need to move away from the platform of grudgery and finger pointing. Understanding power is different from fighting the power, and as Hans said, we are every day fueling the multinationals, fueling the injustice in this world. We can't help it. We live in a system that we have to challenge. It's a debt-based, dependent on economic growth system that is hugely unjust, and until we tackle that, we will get nowhere really. There's lots of things we can do, but I think the biggest thing we can do is connect exactly the community education and development with development education, with sustainability, human rights and justice, and as Zomer said, it is a value-based approach that will allow us to collaborate for the future we want.
Thanks very much to the panel. Thanks for those who contributed. And for those who didn't